Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast from Open Learner and 3%, in which we take a giant, complicated book, break it down section by section, make jokes about it, talk about it, analyze it, get it on. This is Chad Post from Open Letter. I'm joined as always by Brian Wood, the author of Joytime Killbox, soon to be available.
Yeah, did you just say get it on?
I did say get it on.
To start this?
I did.
Really,
get this shit on. We're going to get this on.
This is already going places.
And then we're joined, as always, as we frequently are, by Tom Flynn from Volumes Book Cafe in Chicago. He is one of probably the most frequent guests on the podcast, which is awesome. Yeah, hey, Tom, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. I think the only season I've missed was last season because of the whole, Albuquerque debacle.
Oh, I thought, yeah. Okay.
I was supposed to be there, so sorry I missed out.
Oh shit!
So you missed out on an interesting time.
Yeah, you missed out on me losing my stuff. Okay, so we're gonna pull the curtain back a lot on this episode for the listeners in a few different ways. But one thing, anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time knows that I'm not good at remembering things, and I'm very not good at keeping track of my goods. So we got on the train today from New York. I just got back from New York City.
Oh God!
And got on the train.
You sound tired. What's going on?
We hit Albany. Yeah, I was at sales conference. I did a bunch of meetings with people. I stayed up too late. I went to jazz clubs, all the fun stuff. Anyways, we were on the train, hit Albany, Rensselaer stop, and I was like, where'd I put my keys? I was like, oh no. And so I started going through my bag. I called the hotel. And I was like, I think I left my keys in this room. And they're like, yep, you left your keys in your room. They're like, do you want to swing by and get them? I was like, nope, I'm in Albany on a train. And so they're mailing them. But I managed to forget my keys in New York City, which just adds the Chad lore of like not being capable of taking care of very basic level of existence.
Oh my God.
So I've gone on two trips with Chad Post.
And what did I do? What did I do?
No, you did nothing. My second trip with Chad Post, I woke up with one of the worst hangovers of my life, and there were 17 opened little individual packets of sample of Pedialyte, which I apparently had drunk that night to try to save my life. I just remember waking up to like all these opened samples of not for resale value. This is like orange flavored Pedialyte.
This is like the day after a bachelor party in a retirement home. Like this is how the 70-year-old decided to go out hard before his third wedding.
Hell yeah.
Apparently the bartender, she was so concerned about us that she had given us Pedialyte.
Oh my God.
The last thing I remember before apparently drinking liters of Pedialyte was we were making fun of this writer for Rolling Stone who was going to go to Australia.
We were even the writer he was writing about.
Yeah, we were just shitting on everything he did because he's more successful and better than us. And we were just like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, you suck. But what you're leaving out of that story is do you remember what happened at that bar at Milano's? I left my fucking bag. I left my fucking bag, and I had to go back and get it.
Which doesn't sound like a big deal, but our
we couldn't get picked up by an Uber.
Our hotel was in Brooklyn, and this place was in Manhattan. So
everything about it was bad. Yes, yep. So okay, so we're going to be talking about CoDex 1962 by Sjón, which we've been talking about. I don't have my book cover with me, but you can, if anyone who's watching on YouTube, you can see the spine at least.
It's a cool book cover. I like it.
It is. It's really nice. It's super nice. But yeah, so we're sort of segueing into that by explaining why this might be a bit of a odd one. I read, and also to pull the screen back on this a little bit for listeners, we did those first 2 episodes of this season back to back on 2 consecutive days and just placed them a week apart. So, and then I was planning on us doing this earlier this morning, and I knew that I wouldn't have time in New York to read it. So I read the book. I read our section on Saturday. Which isn't that long ago, but it's enough days ago where it's like, usually I read them right before we do the podcast. It's all fresh in your mind and blah, blah, blah. So this one's a little bit different. So like anyone listening, if you think like I seem particularly out of it, it's not entirely that. Part of it is that our timing is all weird this beginning of the season. So that's my caveat. Be like, hey guys, I'm dumb. But like, I've got a reason why I'm dumb.
But to circle back to the previous episode, we were talking to some of your students in whatever your fake class is that you're making up, and people pay for.
Yep.
The one of the things that was running through that class was it was what'd you make them read? Like 11 books or something really mean, like a large number.
It's going to be worse next year because I'm going to make a book out of my class.
Okay,
so,
even worse. But you did a really cool thing where you were asking them to pretend like they were judges, like it was a scenario in which like pretend you're a judge and you have to pick the winner of the best translated book
out of these ones. Yeah, this is the pool. So it's the best translated book. And what does that mean? Like, what do those words mean?
But I don't remember what was all in the list of, was it 11?
Yeah, it was 11. Yeah.
11 books. But CoDex was one of the books in that 11. What did they end up choosing?
So there was a complete tie between CoDex. There's a tie between CoDex 1962 and Pretty Things by Virginie Despentes.
Oh, cool.
And then they ended up like adding on new categories to try and get a winner.
Screw that.
Or to make it tie. And those two tied. And then the one that came in third or was a runner-up was Bride and Groom and then Coma Madre.
Okay.
So yeah, but it tied with Pretty Things by Despentes, which is perfect. Like it was great because they were very split. And they went through and tried to like analyze why they preferred one over the other, and in what categories one was slightly higher than the other or close to other ones. And it was great. Like they did a really good job. They did a really good job breaking it down. We ran out of time, which is usually what happens. Like, so they couldn't get into like the fierce debating bit before the fucking like biochem class came into my room. But and learn things that matter. But it was great. You know what? Okay, this is a segue. But I want to tell you this story. So we're going to be, because it relates to this book, but you don't know it relates yet. You don't know it relates yet, but anyone who has read the full book who's listening to this does know this. But I found it to be an incredibly interesting idea. So we had lunch when we were in New York with Andre Sneer Magnuson, who had run for prime minister of Iceland a few years ago. And didn't win, but he came very close to winning. And he's an author of like a number of fiction books like Love Star.
Whoa, stop. There's no such thing as came close to winning. You win or you don't.
Yeah, okay, he didn't win. He was not pregnant. He was like not pregnant. Like, yeah, pregnant being prime minister, obviously, because that's how prime ministering works. So he's written a bunch of fiction books like Love Star, a book called The Casket of Time that's out now from Restless. It's like a YA book, a kid's book called Story of the Blue Planet. And this book called Dreamland, Self-Help for a Frightened Nation, which we're publishing a new translation of this about like Iceland before it like fell apart and before like all the economic collapse happened and how it relates to the environment. And the new book that we're going to do from him that he's finishing now is called Of Time and Water. That's basically about climate change. But he's like, you can't say climate change because people get all fucked up about it. So like you talk about fake. Water. Yeah, because it's not real. Yeah. But you talk about like water and the future of water and time as it passed. And like, he's got all these great stories. And this book of ours might be the book that sells like tens of thousands of copies for us. It's quite possible. It's really amazingly intelligent. But one of the things that he talked about at lunch was how at universities, there's always been like a God at the center of why universities exist. That was like the thing that they paid attention to. And I think he took this from Neil Postman, but that like universities initially were divinity schools. So they're all about God. Then they were about like creating the nation and like the idea of like how you create your nation that you're from. Then they evolve into like other ideas of like what the university is, where most like when I grew up, it was like basically like university was creating workers to do jobs. So like there's like a trade element to the university. Even if you did humanities, it was to become a humanities professor, whatever. And then now it's like entrepreneurship and like Silicon Valley, Steve Jobsian kind of thing. But that he said that what really we need to do is at the center, the God of all universities now, of colleges and thinking and learning and everything, has to be climate change. And that everything that you learn, if someone's like, why am I learning algebra? It's like, so you can fix this problem before we all die. Because we have like 30 years left. And if it's like a 30-year long-term project of like everyone focusing like all these things, even if he's like, even like English majors, the English major idea of it is that you have to learn how to be able to tell the stories so that people understand the importance of climate change.
I mean, that's an interesting idea and approach, but like it took how long for like the whole STEM focus and the ditching the humanities to really take root in universities such that they were able to then like pivot harder into tech and entrepreneurship? I mean, that was itself like a 15-year project. So like
yeah, we have 30 years left, man. We have 30 years of clouds and animals. So Get on it, guys.
Yeah,
But
those
no,
are overrated.
So now let's talk about Codex 1962.
which does relate to this. You've read the whole thing, right, Tom?
I have not.
Oh, okay. So I'm the only one. That's a preview for later. Let's talk about the book. So where we were last time, we had the guy that showed up in the pantry that they're kind of taking care of and sort of hiding. So this week we are going over pages 59. Is it 59, 58, 60, whatever it is, 58 through 109 is chapters 7 through 11. And I feel like this is.
Am I correct? He's only been called the Invalid the whole time?
Yeah, there's no name for him yet.
No name for him yet at all. And then there's like a woman, Marie Sophie, who is like working in this giant hotel house, and she's been kind of assigned to take care of him and to help nurse him back to health.
Yes.
And they stay in like a room that's like, they keep referring to it as like the priest room, in which I think I missed the visual both times I've read this, but like it's like a room, but there's like a secret chamber inside this room, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and like you can come into it, but like they're kind of hidden. So
Well, it's from the hotel's former days as a brothel. So that was the room where the well-heeled and powerful in town could visit and not be found out in a raid or whatever.
Exactly.
But there's also like a hidden window so that people could in fact watch as the mayor of the town was serviced.
Mayor or the priest or both.
Or any of the above. Yeah.
Our sales conference was in the Masonic Temple in New York City, and we went up, and the day that we had our party, I made a bunch of people, like 3 other people, go with me down every single floor of this Masonic Temple to check out like what kind of crazy shit was in there, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I highly recommend, if you're in New York, go to the Masonic Temple. It's like this. So she's taking care of him there. And so I'll try and go through this chapter by chapter. I'm sort of, to be honest, refreshing myself as I flip through these pages. So, good on me. Chapter 7 is the first one that we're reading this week from the first volume, or the first book that's inside of Codex 1962. And this is one where Marie Sophie tells a story about the old woman and the Kaiser, and how this old woman had taken care of, like I also had like an experience like taking care of a person, but the basic setup is that the future Kaiser is out hunting this special golden fox, and then doesn't catch it, like it gets tricked by it and like is not able to do it. But that's how she meets the Kaiser and becomes like famous for having done that. There's like a larger point to this that I'll get to in a second. But the thing that I thought was really fun about this was all the jokes about the Kaiser not liking women enough.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. That he did not prefer Adam's rib.
He did not prefer Adam's rib.
Such a good way. That was just such a clever way of doing that, especially in the context of like a folk fairy tale. It was really well done.
Yes. And this is great because this is like one of these points where like it drops in this fairy tale. And it, to me, like the bigger part of this whole chapter was this chapter 7. It was all about this kind of like fairy tale love. And there's also like a hidden child that's born within this, right?
Yep.
Like she
well, because she had a reputation as being the local witch. So after 3 months after the Kaiser, the prince who will become the Kaiser, leaves, she stops being seen until 6 months later. And the thought is that she has hidden the baby in a cave, and he will one day emerge to become the Kaiser or whatever, but that he'll always stay 21 until the day when he emerges.
Yep, exactly. And it was the prince's body. Yeah, transpired that his private member was made of gold.
Yeah,
I remember that. That was the Austin Powers movie, right?
Yeah,
gold member. Yeah,
gold member.
I actually didn't see that one. I think Beyonce's in that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a single Austin Powers movie, so y'all can.
Yeah, let's bring that up on her CV on LinkedIn. Oh yeah, Amazing Queen Bey or whatever. You were in Goldmember. Fuck you.
I'm pretty confident she doesn't even have a LinkedIn, and that
no,
like,
I know.
LinkedIn would shatter the moment she appeared on there, and everyone tried to connect to Beyonce. Like that is how the internet dies. Is
that
Beyonce
might be the best thing
on
ever.
LinkedIn.
Actually, let's make that happen because that would be super good. Like
that's the one lane hot take. The little stinger you put at the beginning of this is, you know what, Beyonce, you sold out the other 2 members of your group, and you were in an Austin Powers movie. Fuck you. The fact that you tell Beyonce to fuck you is like, that's the most.
That will get us a lot of hits.
Yeah, that's the most probably controversial thing you could ever say right now. So I take it back. I love you, Beyonce. You're the best. I wish you the most success.
Tomorrow, Brian wakes up and his LinkedIn profile has been deleted because they just don't want to run the risk she hears about this.
It's your Twitter that you're putting at risk here, man.
I got
your Twitter.
I got 102 followers.
You're gonna have about 10,000 in about 40 minutes, and
That's
like those
intense.
10,000 are gonna hate you.
I'm fine with that. Whatever. People are stupid. I'm stupid. We're all stupid. Let's move on.
But yeah, so the thing with the member though, so there's a lot of like little themes that keep coming up within this section, which is this that we read for today, not just this chapter, but that I think are really interesting is like how he builds this narrative and how this story is told. And so one of the ones is the idea of like the person or gingerbread man with like the phallus. So the phallus it's non-organic too in both instances that it comes up in the chapter. It's gold in this case. And in a minute we'll see there's the gingerbread man with like the dick put on there, erection, whatever, you know what I mean. Come on.
Yeah.
We're all adults here. So yeah, so I like this bit a lot. I like these little stories that are like not moving the narrative forward, but sort of like looping through.
Do you think playing with the gingerbread, like the gingerbread man with the phallus, and then obviously there's the play with the tradition of the, like with the Judaism with the golem. You think it's just playing with like God making Adam out of dirt and clay and like dough, like you're just kind of like playing, like a kid playing with stuff, right? You think it's the same thing? Like
what I think is that it's foreshadowing.
Okay.
And but it's foreshadowing, and I know that. So like the Gollum thing is 100% spot on, and it is related to this, and it is weaving together and then the fairy tale of this sort of like mysterious birth, like this along with this idea of like the creation, playing with clay, creating a person, you're having that power of like the God to do, and this will be very clear by the end of this first third of this. All this is for anyone who's read it, you all know what I'm talking about. But for anyone who hasn't, I won't spoil anything, but yeah, it's absolutely playing with that.
Okay. No, like if you're like really paying attention, the seams are kind of there because they talk about the angel, and there was one of like talking about Mary, like obviously the angel comes to Mary like, hey, you're pregnant. Just like, what?
Yeah, the interludes with Gabriel are pretty interesting as he's supposed to blow the horn to summon the end of days, but gets caught in a web by Satan and then starts to fall for the flesh. It's interesting that way.
Gabriel is down to fuck, is what you're saying. Like Gabriel,
pretty much.
His whole angelhood is like, I am DTF, and like he's way into the flesh. But we'll get to that in a second.
So you're saying Gabriel would have a Tinder profile where he's holding a puppy.
I want to think
Gabriel's angel is like on fire, if you know what I'm saying. Gabriel's Tinder profile is like a flaming sword.
Jesus. I want to see how many social media platforms for like making connections we can work into this podcast, because we've already got LinkedIn, we've got Tinder. We can keep this running, I think.
MySpace?
Well, that's where Gabriel puts up all of his music that he's been working really hard on that none of the other angels want to listen to.
He's also definitely in misconnections on Craigslist all day.
Quick side note, because I was just recently talking.
I was the angel.
Yeah.
with the flaming cock.
God, it sounds like these are all emo lyrics at this point. Anything Gabriel have to say is an emo lyric. If I bled on your shirt, I apologize. Yeah.
The sword is so ready to hurt.
My sword is burning for you. Yeah. But I was just recently talking to some writing students about like pop culture references within your writing, and I always tell people like, don't do it unless you really have to. Because like think about it, if you put LinkedIn or MySpace, like you've completely dated your work very specifically, right?
But okay, what that assumes though is that your work is going to be read 100 years from now.
Sure, that is a big assumption as well. And I assume obviously you have to start writing with the assumption it's going to be on a syllabus in 2020.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But like if you don't have the resonance today that gets in enough, it gets into 20. Well, that's when we're all going to be dead. But if it doesn't get the resonance right away with the people, then it can't get to that syllabus, right? So like the counterexample that I think would be a Pynchon book that has all of the pop culture references of the time and elsewhere, and Frazan's books that are all pop culture references that might be dated in 100 years, but have managed to like resonate with people of the moment and therefore get that shot.
Except I think that with a lot of the stuff that even Frazan's doing, like there's certainly, it's not that he's just picking the greatest hits, but he's picking things that have the sort of like cultural resonance themselves. That
they're lasting as well. Like,
so I mean, like it's not going to date so much because there's going to be some kid who read, and if we're running 2120, there's gonna be a group of kids at college who listen to Pink Floyd and can read Frazan and know exactly what's going on.
Do you think people in 2021 and 2120 people are going to be listening to Pink Floyd? Is a wicked assumption.
No, but Tinder of the Night is still going to be important. Pink Floyd's still going to be known, and
maybe
Bob Dylan's still going to be known back. Like,
okay.
Bob Dylan will still be alive. So
Bob Dylan will still be alive.
His head will.
Everything's frozen.
I don't know. But yeah.
So I get what you're saying, but like
it's
for
not
a second,
what I'm saying is it's not MySpace or
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But like even those things sometimes, I think sometimes those do work. And like Sally, would Sally Rooney have a career if she didn't include, or Tao Lin, if they weren't like of this moment. But the bigger question related to that is like, okay, so we're saying like 100 years from now. And just as a thought experiment, this comes up a lot with nonprofits where we're publishing books that are going to be read 100 years from now. And it's a silly thing to say in a lot of ways, but no one questions it because they're like, oh yeah, of course it's like X, Y, or Z. So 100 years ago was 1920. So we still do read some of those books, but what book from 1820 do we continue to read? What percentage of those do we read?
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, Frankenstein.
And then
I mean, Georgia. I mean, there. If you can run down the gamut, there's a decent number that keep showing up on syllabi. So I mean, I'm not. Yeah, there's certainly going to be a winnowing effect and funneling, but like
right?
It's still going to be there.
But just a handful, like the smallest number. Like it's not going to be. So here's the books from 1920s: The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Last of the Mohicans, Confessions of an Opium Eater, Melmoth the Wanderer, Private Memoirs and Confessions of a Justified Sinner, Last Man by Shelley, Eugene Onegin, then it gets weird, Frankenstein, then it's like people who are contemporary. Something's wrong with this list. Okay, that list got all fucked up. Forget that list. That list sucks. That beginning part. But no, I know you're right, but like that's only a handful of things. So even if we think like the 1920s, like there's a lot of books in the 1920s that we read right now. And 2120, those 1920s ones that people care about will be paired to like 3.
Probably, sure.
Probably, but and what 3 they'll be is kind of hard to figure out because
and imagine we get rid of the patriarchy. What's going to be the canon that we read then? How about that? Boom. Fuck you, Chad, and your white male privilege, whatever.
I'm just saying it's interesting because we use this kind of conceit a lot, and yet like if we look back, like it's so rare for something to last like 100 years or 200 years. It's like insanely rare. And like right now, if there's 250,000 books published a year, the books published in this decade, that would be over 2.5 million books that are published of this particular decade. And the number that are read 100 years from now will be 100. And then 100 years from then it'll be like 8. Like it's really wild to think about how much stuff like it doesn't matter if you can't get to it, like getting to the syllabus would be the best, and that's what your goal is, obviously, and what you're saying is absolutely true. But like at the same time, like those odds are astonishingly low. Like we are very much living in the moment, even when we don't want to be living in the moment.
No, but I think what's great about this is it's using more universal tropes,
like Gabriel,
like golems and angels, and these are things that aren't going away anytime soon.
I mean, those are pretty much baked into Western culture as it currently conceives of itself.
And it's smart. I think it's very smart and interesting in the way that he's doing it as well. But again, I know there's a time for this, for when this takes place, but it feels somewhat timeless in the way it reads because it feels like a fable sometimes.
Right. Well, it also has that sort of like small town in the middle of the country vibe.
Yes.
So both the town that time forgot and also like what every town like that is like.
Yeah.
And like, not to jump ahead, but the part where it's the Book of Dreams.
That's the next thing. We can skip. We'll get there very quick too.
Cool.
Oh, but what are you gonna say, Brian?
Oh, it reminded me so much, and I don't want to be too myopic as an American reader, but it reminded me so much of Sherwood Anderson's Winesburg, Ohio, where you just get really small, tiny glimpses of different people, which gives you
or the Edgar Lee Masters Spoon River anthology. Yeah.
Just to get a three-dimensional view of a place, just really small snippets. It's such a great technique. I loved it. I was really, really impressed with what he's doing here.
I love how this is like, I love how it's like a story that's being told, because we keep getting like, even at the end of that 7th chapter on page 65, you get the final like quotation mark.
Yeah, who the hell's the narrator here?
Who's the narrator? And that's the thing that's keeping. Well, it's the son.
It's the son of the whatever happens between
Marie Sophie,
Marie Antoinette, and the
and the invalid,
and the invalid, sure,
which is alluded to in chapter 8, in which Marie Sophie meets with the owners of the hotel, whatever it is, and the woman is like, hey, we don't really like want people to be immoral, but basically like, why don't you just fuck this guy? Like it's cool. Whatever keeps him safe and gets him like better, go for it. And
I think that's how I lost my virginity, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to be too honest on a podcast, but I think that's how it worked for me.
Just
help him out. He needs it.
You're like in a coma.
Could you? Maybe.
And then this has a big part where I don't remember if Carl was introduced before, but Marie Sophie's boyfriend is Carl, and Carl is, I don't know. Side note, Carl also is a funny name to me constantly. Anytime just saying it, it feels like I'm saying it like I'm got a southern drawl, like Carl. Like there's no way to say Carl. It doesn't feel like it's like a weird long German-esque name. But so
here's a great segue. If you've had a kid, like the extent of what it takes to be naming a kid, right? There's a lot of thought that goes, who wants to name a little tiny baby Carl? Like, no offense if your name is Carl, but think about it. I have a good
friend whose name is Carl, but like, but seriously,
yeah. Do you want to look at a little kid and just be like, oh, Carl, Uchi Gucci Goo, Carl? No, nobody wants to do that.
No, they want to name him Caden.
There's some sort of like oppressive thing pushing down on you to name a little baby Carl. I'm just saying. All right, move on.
So moving on. So Carl is kind of a dick.
It's true, and you know it. Come on.
It's definitely true. So Carl's kind of a dick because he has like, there's old Thomas that works at the place as well, who maybe like gropes people a little bit, which is not the best, and is in the words of this, like rather effeminate, terribly effeminate, and so Carl like teases him by like putting him in a dress and putting lipstick over him while he's passed out asleep like an old man in there. And Marie Sophie sort of defends him. And then she says something that I'm going to use the first quote. I have my favorite line, which I passed by already. But the one other favorite line was the girls, it's on page 71, the girl sighed. It was a fearful poison that seethed in the glands that dangled between men's legs, which is right back to radiant terminus and the Cox language.
Sure. Yeah, I thought of that as well.
Yep, it's like so funny because it does tie together perfectly.
Tom, you don't know this because you weren't around for this one, but Radiant Terminus has a lot of Cox language. And, no.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And this is where the boy comes in. The serpent boy brings his his little golem gingerbread boy who has a penis.
Has a Cox language. Yeah.
Has the Cox language.
And coughs at the end.
A chubby gingerbread boy with an erection.
Yep. So is gingerbread boy, is that a European thing?
I assume so, because I feel like it's part of those whole like those same fables of that Brothers Grimm sort of era. But
right.
No, because I got a Christmas book that someone got like last year, and I was reading it to my daughter, and it was about making gingerbread boys, and I've never heard. I always thought it was the gingerbread man growing up. Like for me, it was a gingerbread man, and then the gingerbread boy was just weird, and I read it, and it was a European book. So I'm wondering if that's a European thing or not.
Is it easier to eat gingerbread boys than it is to eat gingerbread men?
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Less guilt, like because babies taste better, their bones are softer. More
well, I mean,
softer.
there's a fable associated with the gingerbread boy a little bit, which is sort of one of those like children, like creating a child to have a child because you can't or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the States, I think it's always been more about the rhyme, right?
Yeah.
Rhyme as
Right.
fast as you can. And I think the rhyme scheme demanded that it be man, not boy. So I'm wondering if
Yeah.
that was what.
Yeah.
I mean, this is totally just random guessing, but
That sounds
No, totally right.
That sounds extremely American. That
Yeah.
fits. Let's go with it.
it's just you know what?
Yeah.
It works. I believe
SEO
it.
optimized before it's optimized before that exists.
Yeah, exactly. So then we move on. One of the things that's weird in a way, or like that could be discussed about this book, which I don't have a good thing, I don't have anything important to say about, is like when it switches from chapters to parts, because a lot of parts are a single chapter, some parts are a couple chapters. Like that last part was basically Marie Sophie telling a story, but then also like her. So maybe that chapter about her makes sense as a part. But now we go to part 4 in chapter 9, which is the book of dreams that you're talking about. So this angel, is it Fruta? We'll say dash from mind to mind, like recording on what went on with the people who are dreaming in this town. And so we get a bunch of references, both in the case of where it's like naming within people's dreams. So they'll have like a dream and it'll be like Gertrude A, housewife, 47 years old, or Conrad B, optician, 68 years old. And within their dreams, they reference some of the other people in the city who end up being dreamers. But there's also like a few things that kind of like kept coming up for me, like blindness and clay. So on the first page, there's like a plaster stuck over the eyes. This is on page, I don't know, because it doesn't have a number, 77. This is Gertrude A's dream. It has like, there's a small pike in the box. It's alive, but strapped tight with splints and bandages. And there's a plaster stuck over its eyes. I know this will blind it. And then like a few pages later, there's on 80, Elisa H says like the last bland mine executed in Milchburg. I feel as I've got a great lump of clay in my mouth that I can neither spit nor swallow nor spit out. I feel like there's one more, but I'm not seeing it right now. But there's a lot of like those things like we go back to what we just talked about in the Gollum thing that you're talking about of like the gingerbread man, the fake penis, the penis of gold, like that blindness and plaster idea kind of comes up a little bit.
I was thinking that the angel's name was pronounced Freuda, especially with the specific.
That's what I said, right?
You said Fruta.
Whatever.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Just relax, God.
Yeah, dude,
Tom,
man, come on.
God,
What's your name?
Tom. Jeez.
Fline, whatever. Thomas Fline.
There
I
we
just
go.
read the other day the quickest way to like not make friends is correct people's grammar. Good Lord. Pronunciation might be second on that. God, Tom, what's wrong with you?
So much.
You're a
So
monster.
much.
You're a monster.
But this is like what you said earlier, like the Winesburg, Ohio other one, Spoon River Anthology sort of bit where you get all these little glimpses into the different people in the town.
Well, I don't know about Tom's, but Winesburg's the only thing I've ever read that does that. So that's all I can say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to come hard, Tom. You're getting some shit, man.
It's all fun and games. There is that repetition though of like the molding, the clay, the mud, the dough.
The transformations. I stick my fingers inside her. Her belly suddenly expands and contracts again. I'm holding a roll of film.
Yes.
Yep.
Even like a dirtier one with like this. My sister-in-law comes visiting with a bolt of cloth, saying she's been asked to deliver it to me. I unwind the cloth. Printed on the pink linen are pictures of my husband and me in the most extraordinary sexual positions. And the last picture is I'm alone making love to myself. There's like that transformation in that thing, like you say, transformation is like a key to it. It seems like like dreams have that ability.
Well, plus two.
Yeah, there's definitely weaving in a bit of like other kind of mythologies or a larger mythology into it. There, Ilsa K's dream, which starts on 81 and goes to 82, where she's desperately trying to find water to give to a drunk in her store. And at the end, it's revealed that it's the Führer. And this is not the first indication this is taking place. And I mean, this is basically, this time period is Nazi Germany, correct?
Yeah. Like leading up to, I believe.
Right. because they also already mentioned the shopkeeper who was taken away on a train.
Yeah.
And they explicitly mentioned that he could go into his brain underneath his skull cap and remember, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, I mean, again, going back to what Brian was saying about how it feels sort of out of time, but at the same time grounded in a very specific time. And I feel like he's making those, I think he's in some ways using the folklore to kind of spike up the notion of that there's something about the time period that also is going to play into everything else he's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's move. Anything else with this chapter, or we can move on to 5, which is, so the next part is well, first,
Oh, the
is there
last
anything
thing
else
on that one I liked. Well, one, there's like this. I like the idea of the name of the person, their occupation, and their age. It feels very. I like the idea of. It reminds me, it's an outsider that is taking record of these dreams.
Yeah.
And I like that the illusionist is the only one who doesn't have an age.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Right?
Dr. Yu, illusionist,
I don't know how old that
years
is.
old. So good. So good.
There's a lot of like tongue-in-cheek playfulness with all of this as well.
This book is really funny.
Yeah, so Sjón has a really good sense of humor, you can tell.
Yeah. There's like a whole slapsticky bit back, which I didn't mention in chapter 8, 67, where like the owner dodged his wife like a rabbit. She spun in a circle when her blow went wide. He fled squeaking into the passage. She shook her fist after him. He stuck his head back through the door and made a face at her. She tore up her shoes and hurled them after him. He paraded the missiles with his arms and clicked his tongue. She groaned. He laughed and laughed. Like there's like even a slapstick part, but there's like a great sense of humor to this book, I think, that could be easily overlooked because you're like confused as to like what's happening, where it's happening, when it's happening, who's it happening to, and focusing on those big questions. Someone could miss like the fact that it is very funny too. Even this Gabriel section. So part 5, chapter 10 is all about Gabriel. He's flying over. He's the archangel. He's supposed to sound the trumpet for battle in heaven and earth, to fight in said battle and to conquer. But instead he's like, nah, I'm not gonna do I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, like I'm good. But then he's basically like always purging people who are like all the angels that are having sex with the mortals. And he's like, no, fuck those people, that's bad. So I gotta get rid of them. And so there's a bit here where it's like, but as the Almighty knew what motivated Gabriel in the purges, compensation for the fantasies that had seized his mind when he witnessed the sacrilegious union between the incandescent substance of the watchers and the doomed flesh of women. Which, so basically, Gabriel is a gay Republican. who's like, I
did not see that turn coming.
Who's like, I don't want gays to be a thing, and you're like, okay, buddy. So Gabriel does then end up being trapped and like having like this lust for this woman, and it's pretty intense, and like, you know, the normal, I mean, there are the old pagan sort of stories, the Zeusian sort of stories of like the god that like has sex with the mortal and like creates a new god, or like or it's more rapey than that. And this is in that vein, but it also, the thing that it ties into for me, and this is my favorite section of the book so far. The thing that tied into me that I was saying maybe towards the beginning, or was going to tell you guys, I think it was before we got on here, but is that it's like A Time for Everything by Karl Ove Knausgaard. That's a whole book about angels and about like how angels actually appear in the Bible and like what they do. And this is very much in keeping with the stuff that's in that book. And there are like the way that if you like go through like the Bible and how angels are described, it's much different than like the precious moments sort of view of angels that we have in pop culture. They're more dangerous, they're destructive, they're protecting things, they're like vengeful, and they're also like they've been there since before God existed in certain cases in the Bible. Like it's a weird, angels are weird when you like look at like how they're depicted, and like this is definitely in keeping with that. And A Time for Everything does have some of this like biblical stuff that we don't pay attention to in our Bible classes. If you're like a Christian school kid growing up, like we don't talk about this kind of stuff because it's focused on something else, but it's all in there. It's all in the Bible. It's just in a weird way. Like it's unusual and like, and something that people don't expect to have there.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like something like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
like bad shit's about to go down, and so God sends his spies, a couple of angels, and like, hey, go into the town, and like if there's somebody good, like let them know to get out.
Because otherwise,
So-
I'm gonna fuck this place
Yeah,
up.
because like everything's gonna burn, everything's gonna die, and the righteous need to get out.
But
sort
the
of
first-
thing.
or the book of Job. I mean, God
Yeah.
tests him, but
Yeah.
it is the adversary, which is an angel, that is assigned the task. And
Exactly.
the adversary keeps arguing, no, let's make it worse. No, I'm pretty sure if we make it just a little bit worse, so
Yeah.
let's do the next thing and the next thing. Jacob's ladder, wrestling with the angel. I mean,
Yep.
the angels are occasionally look human, but they're always made
Sure.
very clear that they are not remotely human or have human interests in mind.
Yeah. Yep. And like
And
the
would there
first
be?
time
No, I'm sorry,
Okay.
but I'm saying, would there be no better time to send an angel than in World War II Europe, where?
Well, so there was a book that came out 15 years ago, maybe, Chris Adrian's first novel, Gob's Grief.
Yeah.
And that deals heavily with angels, and it's taking
Okay.
place during, like, it starts during the Civil War, and then is taking place afterwards. And there's a really great line in there where one of the characters is messing with life and death, and one of the other characters asks him, what do you think? Do you think God is happy with us? And the guy goes, God doesn't really care. And
Yeah.
but then the character goes, well, I saw an angel, like, when we were doing what we were doing, and they didn't really seem pleased. And the response is, oh, the angels are very much against us. And it's like just such as like a strong, like, creating that difference of opinion was really, really clever. There's also another book that just came out from New Directions last year, the Marvelous Rhythms of the Dread. That was fantastic, but that's all taking place. Angels show up consistently through that, but that's basically a Bob Marley being reincarnated, and it's really, really well done.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's pretty wild. So he wants to bang this woman, and all that stuff fits too. The thing that I was going to say was that I think one of the first mentions of angels in the Bible is that they defend Eden after Adam and Eve are thrown out. That they're
Right.
like the 4 angels that circle Eden and make sure that no one can ever enter, and will destroy
Right.
anyone who gets there.
in front of the gate, and a flaming sword. And
Yep.
You're not allowed to return here. Sure.
Yeah. Which is like the opposite again of like anything we usually have.
Yeah, we think of like Touched by an Angel, right?
Like, yeah, what's that guy's name? Not David Hasselhoff. That's a different person.
No, when I hear
you're
Touched
thinking
by an
about
Angel,
Michael Landon.
no, that's
Highway to Heaven.
Highway to
Is it?
Heaven, you a-hole.
Touched by an Angel was
Touched by an Angel is that Irish lady and like the black lady, and like the 2 ladies. I'm an angel, sugar. I'm an angel. Like that's all. That's every single episode of Touched by an Angel. But
So that was
It's like a Hallmark card come to life.
exactly yes.
but you guys defending? Are you guys defending Highway to Heaven?
No, it clearly
No.
was wrong. That guy died young,
Oh, okay.
so he made a wrong choice. Michael Landon. My mom was heartbroken when Michael Landon died because she loved Highway to Heaven.
He was also on a Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on
Yeah.
the Prairie. That's like Pa.
That was Pa.
Is that everybody's name in the frontier? Pa, right? Like,
Oh yeah. You don't have enough when you're in the frontier. You don't have enough letters to give other names.
Well,
out.
everyone's name, every other person's name was Carl, so it's just easier to
Yeah,
call
there's
him
like
Pa,
Carl
and keep saying
or
Carl.
oh, little baby Carl. That's gonna.
It's harsh.
Wait, was her name Della Reese? Is that her name?
Delarice.
She died. She died not too long ago as well.
You guys know a lot about Touched by an Angel.
I mean, I think that the thing is here,
I'm
don't play an angel on TV, because clearly the angels don't take kindly to that shit.
No, that is true. You can fact check this, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Every member of the Disney movie Angels in the Outfield, they're all dead.
yeah.
Even
That's
the
true.
little kid,
That's
they're all
true.
dead. Every single one, because you play an angel, you're gonna die.
If you play for the Los Angeles Angels, that happens too, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, sure.
Part 6, chapter 11 is
Moving
our last
on.
chapter.
Moving right
It's our
along.
last chapter, and this is where I made a reference to the potty humor of this book, which this is super fun. Where Marie Sophie is pissed off. She's in this
Literally.
room. She's literally pissed off. She's in this room taking care of the
There's
invalid.
bed chambers.
She's not able to go see her boyfriend Carl. Old
Worst name
Carl.
ever. Sorry, Carls, but your name sucks.
Yeah, you suck. Fuck you, Carl. And so she sees the owner of the hotel, the husband, down below, and he's like giving shit to like the servant boy too. And like she decides that she's gonna get back at him. So she takes her chamber pot and just pours it over his head from her balcony, splashing him with piss. And like the best part of this is that the wife comes up and she's like flipping out and like super upset. And Marie Sophie is basically like, in some way in her mind, is like, oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble. But like really, like the the wife is super pissed that the husband was complaining about it and was like came in and woke her up, and that's not cool. Like you don't wake someone up when you're upset about things like this. And he just overreacted to being, having piss dropped on his head. And it's a wonderful like little ironic scene there that comes about. And there's also like the hidden bit, like the little bit of her, the wife of the hotel place being having an affair in the dream world.
Yeah, part
which
of the
is
Unisomnus Association.
The Unisomnus Association.
Which had been banned, but she has a lover who is a Indian businessman that they meet up with in their dreams. It's really, yeah.
And she's so mad that her husband came in and was like screaming and yelling and woke her up from her little tryst, basically. And I think that's fantastic. Like that's great because it like you expect it to go one way, it doesn't, and it goes in a way that's like, man, this dude's we know this guy's not the best. Like fuck him too. Like you can get pee dropped on him. That's cool. But I also love that. Yeah, go.
On page 103, it has this sort of like also the interruption of the narrative where the person, like whoever the interlocutor is with the son, has been complaining about like digressions and moving around, and then he digresses and brings up like hanging out, getting really hungover and hanging out at an artist's house and this whole long thing. And I mean, that's just another, it does a really nice job of like kind of moving the narrative, like breaking up, I mean, just on a structure level, breaking up the scene so that you can kind of let each bit of humor hit, but it also really kind of, it gives them a banter that's really fun that I'm really starting to get into.
Two things related to that. One is that it is funny, and it is really great that it keeps bringing back the idea that two people are talking. But the thing that's interesting is that you said that it was the interlocutor was a man.
That's how.
And I don't know why you assume that.
Because I'm a dude, and that's what I always do.
Also, there's that great Pavement song that rhymes interlocutor with cuter, which is one of my favorite dumb Pavement rhymes ever because it's clearly mispronouncing the word to force a rhyme, which ties back to your gingerbread man. You can run as fast as he can. But yeah, that part is great when that introduction, because of that interjection, like one of my other favorite lines from this whole section was where our main narrator is like, artists, I don't know, or the son or whatever, artists, I don't know any. That's a shame. They're generally quite amusing. Pickled in drink and self-pity, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go, Brian.
I was half drunk when I underlined it, and it doesn't. I didn't underline it straight, but it's there for those of you looking. It's really sloppy. Sorry.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's an artist there.
I'm a drunk reader and a very drunk podcaster, but whatever.
Fuck yeah. So
I love that. Pickled in drink, self-pity, of course. Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Sounds about right.
That's what it is. So I have a new idea, or a new question for you. So this ends with, or one last question about this section. So it ends with a bit about the invalid and like how they're trying to find out what he's saying and like, or what he knows. What's your perspective on who he is or what his situation is? So specifically on page 108, they're like, during the interrogations, they twisted his most banal statements into proof of an international conspiracy against the Führer's rightful view of existence. So what do you think's going on in that? I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, but at the same time, I don't think we've really talked about like what that guy might be.
At that point, my guess was kind of, and this is just a blind guess, but that he's either Gabriel or that he's a fallen angel of some kind.
Oh,
just to throw something completely out of left field, and I do not expect that to be accurate. But that was just sort of one of the first things that flashed through my head was this is an angel in mortal form, and especially with the Führer's rightful view of existence. injecting an angel with a different perspective on things would really rather screw up a lot of Nazi cosmology.
That's interesting. Brian, do you have any thoughts too?
No, I'll echo what Tom said, because again, like an angel is going to have an overview.
Yeah.
Outside of time and place and whatever. And with an overview, you look down on the very current tiny space of whatever humankind is doing, and it seems kind of ridiculous and dumb and stupid. And so you can be a wonderful wrench in that system because you have perspective of what's before and what's after.
Right.
And whatever's the most important thing in your life, or whatever right here, right now, is the most like trivial, dumb, stupid thing ever.
And I'm sure there's an entirely like everyday, like quotidian, whatever reason why, but why would they worry so much? I mean, why would the Nazi regime necessarily be quite so worried about one person with a different perspective on the world when they could simply just snuff them out? Like, why go to all this trouble to try and get more information from this one person if there isn't something a little extra there? Now, again, there's probably a good reason that I'm just not, thinking of, and it's not going to go that direction. But that's just sort of where my head was at in the reading of this.
Sure. And if you've seen the phenomenal film, the name is
Schindler's List?
No, not that one. The one with Keanu Reeves in it.
John Wick.
Constantine. If you've seen the phenomenal Keanu Reeves film Constantine, you know that the Nazis were really interested into the occult, biblical, all that kind of stuff.
Hellboy taught us that as well.
Exactly, as well. So they were into this.
And City of Angels. City of Angels really got deep into the Nazi obsession with the occult and their obsession with Wotan. Like, I mean, come on, like blonde Meg Ryan. Like, it was clearly just trying to send all sorts of messages.
That was Operation Paperclip paid in full. Clearly.
Wow.
Meg Ryan, proof.
The moment where Meg Ryan says "Hail Hydra" into Nicolas Cage's ear.
Right. And then she died on a 10-speed. Spoiler alert. Yeah.
So what could that?
She had a fixed gear.
Yeah. What could the angel do that would upend or be so dangerous?
Well, just existence would be interesting.
Okay,
the existence of angels, especially given, I mean, like the Nazis were, again, pretty into this sort of pagan perspective. So they weren't really too necessarily, alignment with Christianity was useful, but not necessarily whatever. But I mean, also just like, if it's a freaking angels walking around, that's not exactly ideal if they don't really align with your view of the world. And you decide to, I don't know, start invading other countries in Europe. The fact that Gabriel, if the timeline is, at the same moment, is about to trigger Judgment Day, is also kind of interesting, like in terms of like the cosmic scale and then the minutia.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be? I mean, that's if you use the Gabriel thing too, like that is his duty. And if he's distracted by women,
he was trying to hold back Judgment Day right before that as well.
Well, Satan is. That was what was said. Satan trapped Gabriel to lock him up. Yeah. Which is
difference of opinion, right? Like that's kind of like that could be dangerous.
Absolutely. So, shit. I was gonna say like sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to tell people like what our next section is that we're gonna be reading, but I can't find it because I was led to something called Player FM when I was trying to search for this. But anyway, so going forward, that's one thing I think we could keep in mind is the role of that guy too. What is your favorite section? What is your favorite line, Tom?
When the invalid is we're getting more information about him as he's somewhat more awake in the last chapter, and on page 1, and he's looking around, he's very quickly figuring out that he thinks he's in an active brothel at that point, just because of the trappings of the room. So he's looking around, trying to find a crucifix in the room. And when he sees it, the line is, the invalid's face twisted in a wry smile. Nothing boosted the carnal vigor of Christians like the knowledge that the Heavenly Father and Son were watching over their every move. Like, that's a pretty great line. I like that one.
That's solid. Mine is I'm unlike last season where it's all about death and whatever else. This time it's like more cheesy things. So on page 69, they're talking to Marie Sophie about all the
Nice.
stuff that she's getting. You know exactly what I'm going to. 69. Why would I
Jeez,
not?
Chad, grow up. God,
I know.
All right.
Honestly, like it's one of those things that like everyone takes that to be
Mine's
funny.
on page 420. Just wait. Just wait. Wait, are there 420 pages?
There are. Oh yeah,
Okay,
there are. Like
All
dear
right,
God.
I'll pick one on that. Just later, follow the podcast. I'll have a favorite line of 420 just for you.
Okay,
All right,
you got it. You got it. 69.
69.
Page 69, Marie Sophie's getting her stuff to go stay in the room that night. And she says, because reading books is a kind of dream sleep, you see. Which I like. As like books being a dream
makes you
sleep.
feel good about your vocation, whatever. That line sucks. Whatever. I picked a super lame line, 95. I don't know why. I just thought this was really funny. It's like one of the funniest lines in the book so far. It's towards the bottom. The unicorn shot him a dirty look. I just imagine a unicorn shooting someone a dirty look, and it's the fun. I want a T-shirt of that.
That's
if
awesome.
they have one.
That's pretty good.
I love that. I had it underlined right before that too, where he's like, it didn't take a theologian to see that he was an archangel. Who else would have 16 wings and a halo? That's like that's
there's a ton of humor in this if you look for it.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's gallows humor. Obviously, we're talking about like the Holocaust and World War II and death, and but no, a lot of humor.
It also really moves. Like the prose really, really keeps you moving through the pages. Like you can burn through this thing pretty fast, it seems. So,
yeah, it's super tight. You're not running through mud reading this, which I like a lot. I like that a lot.
There's a lot of good blank pages around those part chapters.
Yeah.
Like you're like on page 15, then you're on page 62 all of a sudden. Yeah.
Score.
I realize this is just me getting older, but like, damn, I really appreciate that. I just need the sense of accomplishment. It's like picking up a short story collection, reading through and being like, yeah, I read 3 complete things today. It was like 8 pages, but so be it.
But still. Okay, I'll end in a second, but one thing that I want to do that's jumping way ahead, but I'm going to do this for the benefit of Biblioasis and anyone who listens to this. I think that our first English book that we're going to do for the 2-month review podcast is going to be called "Is Ducks Newburyport?" Do you know this book, Tom?
Yeah. I have a copy around here somewhere I need to get to.
So
it looks awesome.
Giant, like J.R. William Gaddis sort of book by Lucy Ellman. That's wild and funny and like one long aggressive rant from a female writer. And Biblioasis is putting a lot into this book. Like it's a 800-page book coming out in September that's like, a gamble. It's a gamble. It's a tricky experimental sort of
show the
J.R.
cover.
voice-driven thing.
Show the copy. And Casey wrote that, right?
She did not.
Okay.
Vanessa wrote it.
Okay. It is hysterical. Like it's like the copy.
Are you ready?
Publicity copy, and it's just go do it.
Here's the description of this book. The fact that the author says the main plot of this book is the lioness and not the Ohio mother baking tarts tatine and worrying about everything. The fact that pollution, gun violence, ACLU, BLM, DAPL, KOC, MAGA, SJW, WMD, what we've done to animals. The fact that this book is so important that I don't even know how to write copy for it. The fact that a publisher calls it Moby Dick in the Kitchen. The fact that it's really called Ducks Newburyport. The fact that does anyone even read copy? The fact that what if they do and it just ruins the book for them for good? The fact that what good does worrying even do? The fact that she worries that DuPont poisoned all the water and the polar bears are dying and teenage girls are obsessed with morning routine videos. The fact that some woman says you should tidy away all your books if they don't quote unquote spark joy. The fact that what would she do with this one? The fact that it's so big, the fact that the Guardian, the Observer, and the Herald Scotland all name it a book to watch for in 2019. The fact that the Guardian calls it a wildly ambitious and righteously angry portrait of a contemporary America. The fact that the Evening Standard says reading Ellman is like finding bits of broken glass in your lollipop. The fact that doesn't sound very joyful. The fact that the Telegraph suspects Lucy Ellman might be some sort of genius. The fact that the Guardian has a lot to say about Lucy Ellman. The fact that they also say it's somehow hard not to be optimistic in the hands of a writer so angry and intelligent. The fact that maybe sometimes books should spark anger. The fact that V.S. Naipaul said, if you want to write an important book, break the form, break the forms. The fact that this book breaks the forms. The fact that John Metcalf said, it's one of the most original and involving manuscripts I've read in years. The fact that he said, perhaps ever. The fact that the end of Huck reckoned that he ought to light up for the territory, else his aunt would civilize him, and couldn't stand that. The fact that it seems like what American novels have been about ever since, lighting out the territory, getting away from Aunt Sally. The fact that this novel has had about enough of that. The fact that running away and taking things that aren't yours and hating women has brought us to the point. The fact that Lucy Ellman forces us to reckon with it. That's the description. Then the back says the book America wouldn't even publish.
Or the fact that I literally had to plug my computer in because I was going to die while you read that. How about that?
Yep.
That's the copy. That's the book. I want to do this. It comes out in September. We'll do it at the end of the year. But anyone who's listening to this, pre-order this book. Help a good publisher out. Just get it. Go to your local bookstore. Pre-order it. Tell them that you want it. Get it all locked in. They need to know that there's an interest out there, and we'll do a whole long podcast on like rants and woman ranting, which is unusual in terms of like these magnum big ass maximalist books.
I'm so glad you picked a giant ass fucking thick book.
That's how it works. That's how it works. That's what it's for.
That's gonna spark so much joy in my life. Thank you.
How much joy do I really want to spark in people's lives? Like
it's a lot of sparking, dude.
Yeah,
just spark up for that book.
There's like 900 pages of joy there, man. 900 pages of joy.
Right. So you get to page 420 on the book.
Yeah, no, I'm down. Let's do it.
I bet 420 is gonna be awesome. It's still way off in the future. I just want to encourage people to like, get ahead of the game here. Get this thing because this looks fantastic. I've been holding on to this since Winter Institute. You haven't read it yet, Tom, but like I know some people have, and they really loved it, and they're like, it's amazing, but you just have to give into it. It's like a long, complicated, crazy book that's filled with like humor and rants and voices.
I'm really excited about that because we're in a culture and a time where things are very quick and like the cycle is very fast. So something longer and bigger. I think that's good. I think it's important.
And I really like the fact that it's by a woman who's doing this too, and is like particularly angry and like welcome to be angry. So
and I also like that it's Biblioasis that's breaking it out. I mean, they're a great house, but they're also small. So like they don't get as much attention as they probably should for what they put out.
Could you even imagine what it cost to print this book?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's that too.
This book needs to sell for them. This is a gamble that I am all on. I'm here for.
Yeah.
I want to make it happen. And like in our small way, like I don't know how many people are watching this video or listening to this podcast, but like whatever dedicated group of people do, like getting you guys to buy this book for them would be really meaningful to them and to this. So that's mainly why.
No, Biblioasis rejected my book, so they
rejected my book too. They rejected my book too.
So they clearly only put out really good books.
Yeah,
we got to get their book. Let's do it.
They have actual taste.
They actually have taste.
They want to post books by writers who are good.
Yes, I'm down. Not cool, man. Thank you.
I'm trying to find a good 420 quote on here.
I'll let it go.
Yeah, it's a good page. Here you guys go. Here's page 420. Because there are that many.
Not even halfway. Do they have? Are there paragraphs? I just see only like one. Everything's justified left.
Yep.
From what I've seen. Oh, good.
There are paragraphs at the very beginning. There's a few at the very beginning, and then it's like this.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a super long podcast. This will last for 3 months. It'll be a 3-month review.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be like
slow. But like I think it's good. I think it's way more enjoyable. From what I've read of it and what I've seen from other people, I think it's super enjoyable. And like it'll be something that like we'll have a lot to talk about. I mean, they got it's in today. So all the things that you're saying about like the local, like the LinkedIn or Tinder references, I don't know that it has those, but it is very much about today's politics and today's life. And that opens up a lot to talk about. So,
no, like friends like Marie, like they really lean into the Marie Kondo thing, right? How long is that going to be? Like that's going to have like a shelf life of what, like 6 months?
No,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe-
Her books came out 7 years
Years
ago and sold well, and then came back again. Like, I mean,
It's the
that doesn't mean
Netflix
it's going
thing,
to come
though,
back
right?
again in
Like,
7 years. But
yeah.
I mean, what you were talking about earlier, Brian, like about in talking to the students. I mean, what's more interesting to me is, and I think this is what you're trying to say to them is like, use the platform and the technology, and like talk about how people use it and what it like what it does. Don't just say, oh, they tweeted, and expect that to be like a fucking meaningful thing.
Precisely.
Instead discuss like how kids jailbreak their phones and use the technology to move pieces around a board. Like that sort of thing is the way to attack it. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like how they jailbreak other phones and play like Dungeons and Dragons on their phones. That's what you mean, I assume.
Yeah, exactly.
There was Rodrigo Frazan, who's in New York this week when I was there for an event with Rodrigo Ray Rosa, which is pretty cool. But he had this bit where we're walking down the street and he's like, isn't it funny? Like, you used to be on movies where you were the super important person. You'd come in and be like, hold my calls, like no calls. Like, I'm too busy to accept any calls. And nowadays it's like, that's the exact opposite. Like the more people call you, the more important you are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's why Rodrigo is Rodrigo. Like,
speaking of long books, speaking of
Yeah.
long ass books, his third volume. So the first volume of the first season of the 2-month review was for The Invented Part by Rodrigo Frazan, which was a 500-page book plus. And the second volume comes out in November. Did you get your copy yet, Tom?
No, I've been waiting.
It'll probably be there tomorrow because they're all arriving like yesterday, today.
Just real quick, if you've hung on this long, Rodrigo Frazan is fucking amazing. He is so good. He's stupidly good.
I also want to ask that if you're watching and or listening to this and you don't know about Rodrigo Frazan, who are you?
Yeah,
like how did you find this, and how did you decide to spend your time doing this?
Rodrigo Frazan is the shit.
His second volume, that trilogy, The Dream Part, will come out in November. We have Galleys now. And the third volume, The Remembered Part, he turned in like on May the 4th, on Star Wars Day, essentially. And he turned it in. It's done. It's being copy edited, but it is much longer than the first two parts.
Oh, God damn it.
Like the first two parts combined, or
it's like 800 and some pages. He wanted all three parts to add up to like 2,000 pages in Spanish, which they do. But I'm going to give you guys a little tease here, is that the third part has a lot of stuff about Rochester, New York.
Oh,
really? Huh.
Hooray. It's all garbage plate. Great.
I cannot wait to read the section about Rochester, New York.
It's
going to take years to get translated, though. A couple of years to get translated, but it's there. But the Dreams Part is available in November, and we do have galleys for booksellers and reviewers, and it's spectacular. I've read it.
And pre-order that as well. Like,
yeah, pre-order that too.
Hit up your indies. Where we've had a rough last week with certain like business announcements, and so like the B&T thing is just awful. But like we can do pre-orders. We can help publishers boost their sales a little bit with those pre-orders. Just hit us up.
And Andy Hunter is about to rewrite history with the IndieBound website, and that's going to be amazing. It's going to change the whole pre-ordering thing. Anyways, you can always find us at open_letter and at Chad W Post at everything. And Brian, you're available where?
Wherever. You can pre-order my book at Boa Editions. Go there.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
And from indie bookstores. And your book is called?
Joytime Killbox. Go get it.
You coming through Chicago, Brian?
If you'll have me, I'll do it for sure.
Yeah, we'll have you.
All right. Malort all around. Let's do it.
Dude, if you guys do like a Malort launch party, I would come for that.
Yeah, Chad will come with me. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds good.
Let's do a live recording. The book comes out in September, right?
October. Yeah, October 15.
Yeah, we get to
we'll do a 2-month review followed by a launch.
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds good.
That sounds great.
All Malort all night.
Yeah.
Tom, where can we find you?
At Thomas K. Flynn on all the platforms, LinkedIn, Bumble,
MySpace,
all of it.
Wait, what is Bumble?
I don't even know. I've heard of it. I don't even know what the fuck it is. Quite frankly.
Bumble is like one of those where like you go and cheat on your wife. Like it's like, whoops, I didn't mean to expose my Bumble profile.
And then then you can also follow all Volume stuff at Volumes Books across all the platforms, especially Bumble. Like that's
whatever Bumble may be.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, so off the rails.
Just pull out a platform and it's like Friendster, but like weirder.
Yeah. Good night and good luck, everyone.
I do have one last. I had one last thing to say is that Tom. One last thing. Tom has an article up on 3%. You wrote about which book should win for the Best Translated Book Award, and which book did you write about?
People in the Room by Nora Lang.
That is up. Go to 3%. Read Tom's piece on that, and yeah, like you said, good night, good luck. Thanks everyone for listening.
That one won't win.